Joining us right now is Erik Rush, author of Negrophilia, From Slave Block to Pedestal, America's Racial Obsession. And Erik, truth be told, you were booked for this show before the president made his remarks today. I assume you're familiar with them, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on. And yes, I am familiar with how the president has weighed in.
Yes, he was basically giving, I guess, giving people a Columbia University, former Columbia University professor's version of history. I'm a little confused. Well, tell me what you think of, for instance, you know, yes, there's disproportionate crime in the African-American community, but a lot of the violence in that community is attributable to violence in the past in that community. I don't know if he means Jim Crow. I don't know if he means slavery. I'm not sure what he's talking about. I'm not sure how that relates to 2013. He also talked about how very few, which means a small percentage of African-American men have ever shopped in a department store and not been followed, have ever crossed the street and not had people push down their buttons. Remember, we're talking about a very small percentage that have not had this happen, which means 90% or so of men, African-American men, have had it happen. What'd you take away from his whole conversation?
Well, as far as the suspicion stuff with the shopping and the buttons and all of that, I think that is just part of the you know, the very sort of cynical, suspicious, chip on your shoulder attitude that that people such as Obama and these black civil rights career activists try to cultivate. You know, you're talking about things that were more likely to be commonplace 30, 40, even 50 years ago. You know, I can't walk around with the same attitude I had when I was 20 because things are not the same as they were with respect to race when I was 20. And then the, you know, remarks having to do with things, you know, black young men killing each other, like, you know, at the rate that they are, relating to the past, I think that's sort of a thinly cloaked reference or thinly veiled reference to, you know, things like Jim Crow and segregation and all of that. There are these things that the black community can't let go of, and they're culturally ingrained and still taking their toll, which I think is a bunch of garbage. I think what's really taking its toll is half a century of liberal politics that will not allow black Americans to grow past what has happened and has been actively keeping them down socioeconomically.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I just couldn't agree with you more. And, you know, he did not address any of the other problems, such as, you know, fatherless homes and children without fathers or single parents and all that kind of thing. And he did say that statistically Trayvon Martin would be more likely to be shot by a peer than by, you know, someone like George Zimmerman. But on the case itself, I mean, were you surprised that he came out and he, among other things, he said if a white male teen would have been involved in this scenario, both the outcome and the aftermath might have been different? I mean, so much of what he said, like you said, it's like the chip on the shoulder. I want to take it back to him because he said it happened to him in the department store. It happened to him while crossing the street. And I wondered out loud, was this when he was at Columbia University and maybe had just gotten out of the van that he writes about in his book, where they closed the windows so none of the pot smoke would escape so they could inhale more smoke, and he would steal the joint as it was passed around out of turn so he could get another hit. Maybe when he got out of that van and wandered across the street, someone pushed down their button. I mean, you know, he's making it sound like he was walking around as a young man in a shirt and a tie, and this was happening.
Exactly, when he got out of the van and was staggering across the street. Yeah, and that's the same question that I would ask. You know, what he was like, and quite honestly, you know, I was kind of goofy when I was 20, 25 as well. But you know, you take that with, you know, it was more because I was It was more because I was young and sort of, I mean, I had an afro out to the, stratosphere and all of that. And, that sort of thing happened to me. But once again, we're talking about 30, 35 years ago. And things are not the same as they were 35 years ago. That's part of the problem that I have, that I write about in my book, is that these people, Obama, the activists, these people who have a political or financial interest in keeping this racist narrative going, they won't let go of it. They talk as though it's still 1955 or even 1935, and the kinds of things that were going on back then are still going on.
Erik, Jesse Jackson called Florida, I could play you the bite, I know you believe me, an apartheid state. He wants the United Nations to investigate this country, all based on their self-defense shooting. It is comical. And the media, rather than question it, they look serious and say, thank you, Reverend, thank you. And I want you to hear, yesterday, I was watching all the nighttime shows, but I was fixated on CNN. They had Trayvon's parents and everything. And, not only his parents, and my heart bleeds for them, but race. And now it's an all-white jury. By the way, one woman was half black and half Hispanic, so I don't know how it's an all-white jury. So she doesn't count. And then there was an interview that Fox had done before all these shows on CNN last night with an alternate juror, a black male. And here's what the black male alternate juror said about the verdict. Cut 11.
Well, I supported the verdict. I agree with it.
Now, well, excuse me, a half black, half Hispanic woman, and now a black male, also who sat on a jury in a different capacity, who heard the case, they too acquitted. So where is there any racism in this verdict?
Oh, well, there isn't, and there wasn't any racism in the case either. This is all a political contrivance, and that's what people really have to understand.
Yeah, no, I know, but when they're bombarded with a media that is just, and again, here's the sickness of it, Erik, and we're talking to Erik Rush, author of Negrophilia, From Slave Block to Pedestal, America's Racial Obsession. Every station, I watched all the coverage. Even the people who wanted Zimmerman put in jail during the whole time of the case were saying, uh-oh, not going good for the prosecution, that every prosecution witness is turning into a good defense witness. This doesn't look good. Then the verdict comes out, and it's like, oh, my God, this is racist. Like, well, what'd you expect? You knew this was going to happen.
Well, and they're operating on a very superficial level. It really is quite infantile when you get down to it. But what a few people have said is that the Obama or President Obama and his surrogates really are playing to the quote unquote low information voter, the people who get engaged and pay attention to the facts of this stuff. You're not going to be able to hold them because they're not that stupid, and it's the folks who are the product of the education system. Racial Chantal is definitely a great example.
Wait a minute, wait. Don't you know the media tells us that, we're old, we're culturally insensitive, and we're racist if we don't understand that whoop ass and smoking weed and the N-word ending in an A is the norm. Don't you know that?
Well, to be honest with you, I actually think it's racist of the liberals to intimate that being an uncultured idiot is part of black culture.
Very well said. Listen, on that note, Erik, we're out of time. Thank you so much, folks. Check out the book, Negrophilia, or Negrophilia, I guess is the proper, From Slave Block to Pedestal, America's Racial Obsession.